Good evening and welcome to our first podcast of Watching You.
Watching you. Watching Ace.
I'm Jeff Scott in St. John, New Brunswick.
And I'm Jeff Gray out in Stewiacke, Nova Scotia.
Is that anywhere near Halifax?
It's very close to Halifax, so about 45 minutes outside of Halifax, but you can see I'm in the East Coast tribute band rock and roll studio here.
That's right, the East Coast Kiss tribute. Isn't
Yeah.
Stewiacke that place that's exactly at the 45 degree? I mean, it's exactly between the North Pole and the equator.
Yeah, it's one of a billion places around the globe that claim that.
Okay, because I've seen it on the sign driving to Halifax.
Yeah, we got we got all kinds of monuments out here. We got a Mastodon, we got a KFC, we got Dairy Queen, we got it all, man.
Okay, so the reason we're here is because we're big diehard Kiss fans.
Absolutely.
And we've slightly been inspired by a podcast that is run by Michael Brandvold, and his podcast is called Three Sides of the Coin, where three Kiss aficionados get together and discuss Kiss. So that brings us to us. Why are we doing this, Jeff?
Well, I think that's a great point. I mean, let's not forget to mention the good Canadian there, Mitch LaFon, and Tommy Summers from Minnesota. Yeah, it's more than slightly. I think they showed me the possibilities of podcast technology with respect to video and audio and the power of having these kind of conversations. So, I mean, I'm really engaged in the conversation about Kiss. I haven't been in a while, so it's really kind of inspired me to want to do this with you. You and I have been doing this for a long time.
Oh, we get together and that's all we talk about is Kiss. It's weird.
That's all you talk about, and I go along with you.
And roping you in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, let's jump right in to the first Kiss album. It's just called Kiss, and there you can see the image on the screen. It's the four of them in against a black background. It was said that when they showed up for the photo session, either Bill Aucoin or Neil Bogart looked at them and said, "Are you still going to do this in makeup?" And they hesitated for a second, and then they said, "Yeah, we're doing this in makeup. That's who we are. We're Kiss." And he said, "Well, okay." And I think that from the management point of view, there was this hesitation. Like, are we going to do that route? I know that's how you've presented yourself, and that's how you've come to present yourself to the record company, and that's one of the reasons why we signed you, because you're exciting both visually and musically. But are you going to actually, now that we're doing a photo shoot, are you actually going to do this makeup? What do you think of that?
Well, you think about it, that's a huge risk. I mean, nobody was doing that at the time.
Yeah.
The record companies, the producers, all these people that, the people who are putting the money behind this or going to put this, get it out to the marketplace. They know image was everything. It didn't fit anything else that was going on at the time.
No.
It would have been a huge risk for them to do that.
Very risky and an unknown. I mean, it's different for Bowie. If Bowie had several albums out and all of a sudden he does Ziggy Stardust, he's going out on a limb. But yes, you're completely right. It was risky for Kiss to attempt that and to say, here we are with a record deal. We're going into the big time. We're hoping to go into the big time. This is our photo session. How are we going to do this? It's also said that there was a professional makeup artist hired to go in and do makeup before this, but the guys were quite used to doing the makeup and they knew what they wanted to do. So I think Peter Criss felt a little bit bad that the record company had hired someone to come in and was paid for the day to do a job. So Peter said, I'll sit down and you can do my face. So that's why Peter Criss's makeup looks the way it does on the album. I mean, you'll never see Peter Criss anywhere else with that makeup. Not live. What's that?
It's impractical. I mean, you never put that on every night.
Well, it's just too detailed, and it doesn't look like a cat. It doesn't look like Peter Criss. I don't know if it's Peter Criss there. It just doesn't look like him. But it's hard to tell with that makeup on.
some kind of warrior from the original continent.
Yeah. And you can see here, this is a shot of the Beatles album called Meet the Beatles, and you can see how Paul and Gene were so influenced by the Beatles. The arrangement, the lighting, the black, the low key, it's almost the exact same thing. It's so obvious what they were going for. One of the things I like about the Kiss album, or the final one that they used, was if you look just behind Gene and Peter, you can see a backlight, sort of a red floodlight. And I like that because it gives it a little more depth. You can see here I'm going to insert an outtake where it doesn't use that light. And it's very dark, it's very low key, and it does look very much like the Beatles. But I think the one that made the cover looks much nicer because that backlight gives it just a little bit of depth. And where it's red, it's almost like, is this the band from hell? Is this the band that's leaving the destroyed ruins of Detroit, as in the Destroyer album? It just gives that look. It just gives a little bit of depth. Um, I think it's a good, it's a good photograph. It's photographed by Joel Brodsky. I haven't heard of him since or anything else he's done. Maybe he's just a studio photographer who was hired for the day, but certainly left his mark on history. What do you think of the album cover when you first saw it?
Well, first of all, I was put in context. I didn't see this album cover until well after I saw Kiss Alive.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back. I was one of those people that kind of came in right at Kiss Alive and then went back and found the old albums.
Yeah.
So I saw this album cover was really struck me because, like I said, I saw the makeup from Kiss Alive. I saw all the inserts, all the merch inside of that Double Live album, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw this makeup, and it was just weird. It didn't really seem, honestly, it really didn't quite seem like the same band. But you could really, so that's the best way I could put it. It just seemed like, here's a band that's really just trying to find their way, and this is their first, I thought it was their first attempt. Obviously, it wasn't. They had many attempts prior to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was, but you know what? It certainly caught your eye, but you know what? That's not the album you saw out in the marketplace at that time.
No, I mean, we certainly had to hunt for that one. The only knowledge we had of that album was because when you opened up Kiss Alive, it showed the first three albums.
Right.
And we thought we should try to find these. And of course, growing up in central Newfoundland, we didn't even have a record store. I mean, we had a record department in Woolworths, and that was as good as it got. But one of my buddies went into to St. John's, Newfoundland, which was somewhat of a bigger place and probably had more record stores. So eventually we saw this album in the flesh, if we could say that, or in the vinyl. And it certainly was different. I think the whole Peter Criss makeup just threw us off. We just didn't even know. Like, is it Peter Criss? Is it someone else? Luckily, on the back of the album, it does say Peter Criss, drums, percussion, vocals. So he said, yeah, that's him. Why does he look like that? It was certainly off-putting.
I never questioned whether it was him or not. I just really made a mental note of how intricate the makeup was, how different it was from the makeup I was used to seeing, which was 3 albums later or so, right?
Yeah.
But you mentioned, Central Newfoundland. It was the same thing. I was in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia at the time. We had Zellers, and if there was that album in the record store, it might be one of two. It might be one of one. And if you didn't buy it, it might have been you might not get one for another month or 6 weeks if you're lucky.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was hard to get good music. Certainly.
Yeah, it sure was.
The other thing that's interesting about the album cover is Ace has blondish silver hair. And Ace, being the space cadet that he is, he took a can of car spray paint, silver spray paint, and he spray painted his hair for the photo shoot. And he said, I'll just wash it out after. And it didn't wash out. It was car paint. It had to wear itself off, but it certainly didn't wash off as he thought. But I think it looks good against all that black because they all have black hair. And I if you don't know, I do some professional photography on the side. I'm a high school teacher full time, a wedding photographer in the summer. There's something called a hair light, and if you have black hair against a black background, you need a hair light, just something to give some texture and sense of shape. So we really lose the shape of their hair, but Aces comes through just wonderfully, and I can see that you're touching your head. Are you losing the shape of your hair?
No. It's an issue that I'm well aware of, and I have to take care of every single day.
The issue I have with the Kiss album is that we don't see the costumes. And if you look at them appearing on the Mike Douglas show, Mike Douglas makes such a big deal of the costume. The bat wings and the size of the shoes. Gene, when he walks out, it really is the costume as much as the makeup. And when they appear playing, you see those costumes, and that really, really sets Kiss apart. I think the album cover really should have shown the costumes and the boots. All we see are the faces. Hotter Than Hell. What do you think of Hotter Than Hell?
I don't know what to make of that album cover. I don't understand it. It was very dark in terms of the color scheme. I didn't get. Now I'm sure there's a I don't know all the details. I'm not really a Kiss geek in terms of all the details and why they did what they did. I was always confused by the Japanese letters. I still to this day don't know what that's about.
No.
I mean, it had a certain debauchery to it. I think that's the right word I'd want to use. I think that's what they're trying to get across. I guess if I go back, I gotta go back when I was 16 years old. Though, and what did I think of it then? I probably thought, hey, 16, 17 years old, all I would, I kind of really related to the gotta get me a girl mentality. The front end, the back of that album cover.
Yeah.
So, it probably worked for me, all right.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've just heard this, I don't know, just a rumor, but I think that there was some theory that the album would do well in Japan if because they were wearing the kabuki makeup, no one would know that they were American. The kabuki makeup is Japanese in origin anyway, so they thought that they could, maybe ship 50,000 or 100,000 copies to Japan, and it would sell really well over there. I don't know. That's just what I've heard. The photographer is Norman Seeff, Seeff, who, again, I haven't heard of. I don't think any of his Kiss photography shows up anywhere else. I was confused by the album cover, for sure. One of the problems I have with it is that I've seen the outtakes from that photo shoot, and it's pretty good photography. They did some really bizarre things. They had girls in lingerie. They had half-naked girls wearing big birds' heads, and they had like some guy who looks like a Maharaji juggler or fire breather. It's really weird. They brought in all these kind of half-sexy, half-circus kind of people and did this really bizarre photo shoot. Now, the outtakes look pretty good. Problem I have with the album is that what made it to the album cover is incredibly bad photography, and I'm speaking again from a photographer's point of view. All the shots are black and white. They're all incredibly over-contrasted. You can't tell they're wearing white makeup because any whites in the photo are just completely whited out. Whereas with the first Kiss album, it's color, and you get the sense that it's a white makeup. But with Hotter Than Hell, the front photo is so bad. Paul Stanley is in so much shadow, you can't tell what his makeup is. And then the back cover is kind of interesting. You have these individual photographs, but again, they're kind of small and they're black and white and they're not very good quality. It's the whole layout with the colors and the Japanese writing. I always chalk that up to being a graphic art student's failing project. That's how I saw that. It's like someone said, here's the photos, here's a write-up on the band, make a cover. And some kid who's in training made it up, and I would have given it an F because it's just a bad layout. It's bad photography, it's bad reproduction, and it's just weird.
Well, today they probably wouldn't even give it a grade. We don't keep score, we don't give grades. So it might have been, it's probably just a question of budget. You think like everything starts off with, we've worked on several projects, I've worked on different projects, and you always start off with these, budgets, for graphics, logos, things like that. You don't have as much money, so you can't put much into it. When you were talking, I just saw the cover for Gene Simmons' solo album, Asphalt. And
does that still exist? That's like an anomaly. Did that actually happen?
I think about if you can remember the cover of that. But it's a similar kind of.
Is it a money bag or something?
No, it's him standing in a suit. With this real smug kind of face, lots of eyeliner on. Yeah. And he's got all these sort of trashy women all over the place around.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was the same. Back to that sort of imagery of, the girls with the birds on their heads and those kind of things. There's various women in this picture with various clothing. None of them are stunning or anything like that. It's almost like a carnival. It's almost like prostitutes. It's almost It's almost that, and that's what like an orgy, like that was like the Hotter Than Hell was always like a bit of a rock and roll orgy kind of cover, right?
Well, it was like a sex orgy. The outtakes show them quite. I think an orgy actually ensued after that, and I think Lydia Criss actually stood and watched or participated. And I think there's some outtakes in her book which are kind of interesting.
Wow.
But it was definitely a bizarre thing. But the quality of the outtakes are quite good, but the quality of the photos on the album are absolute garbage. It's weird. And again, it probably comes down to cost. I mean, Casablanca, they're doing their second Kiss album. The first one didn't sell well. They're hoping to make another one that'll do something.
Yeah.
So they were a struggling. I mean, I think Bill Aucoin and Neil Bogart were funding the whole thing on their credit cards and going hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt, just hoping that Kiss was going to somehow be the overnight success that's going to launch them into millionaire status. Eventually, it did happen, but they certainly went out on a limb for those guys.
Yeah, yeah. And at that time, it was still really, we got to get the music out that people have to hear us. We got to play shows.
Yeah,
We put money into the show. It's probably a lot less of it. They were probably just lucky to get a record at that point.
I know. Yeah, Dress to Kill.
Yeah.
What a bizarre. That one confused me as well. Like, why suits? What's with the suits?
And why did Gene Simmons have pants on that are too short?
Yeah, well,
And
I can answer that in just a second or two.
okay, but you know what? Think about what I told you before. I mean, I don't know how anybody else saw these things. I saw it in reverse. So I saw Kiss Alive, and then I went back and looked at these covers, and then I listened to the music after too. I heard all those songs live first.
Yeah.
Then I went back to the studio versions, which is a shock as well.
Well, if you heard them live first, you're hearing something really exciting, as
Well,
opposed to studio versions, which are kind of not exciting.
well, the epitome of that
Yeah.
is Rock and Roll All Night. I mean, if you look at I hate the version on Dress to Kill of Rock and Roll All Night. I would say hate, it's a strong word, but I don't like it. It never did. Obviously, it didn't do anything for them. Same thing if you take another song that's really good evidence of that in terms of the toughness, live version of Deuce versus the studio version.
It's kind of flat. Yeah. Yeah.
It's very poppy, very weird guitars in it. Actually, little picky things going on all the time.
Yeah.
That's my technical guitar term.
Well, what happened with Dress to Kill was they were kind of going with the Superman theme, and the premise was that we saw these four guys in makeup who were in regular business suits and running into a phone booth. And then in the next shot would be the band coming out of the phone booth wearing their, we'll call them Hotter Than Hell era costumes, because they hadn't yet gone to the Alive costumes that you see on the Alive cover. So they're still wearing the Hotter Than Hell, where Ace has that big triangular polka dot costume thing. And so they kind of like Clark Kent going into the phone booth and Kiss superheroes coming out of the phone booth. And I believe I have, if I haven't inserted it already, I believe I have a copy of that or a version of it. The problem with it is that it's a very wide shot. It doesn't work for an album cover. They need something square, of course, and that's the limits when you're working with records. You have to have a square image. So something that's too wide is not going to work. I think they should have put it on the back cover in some way, made it fit, because the front cover makes no sense. And like, why are these guys wearing suits when they're Kiss? And then the back cover, what do we get? We just get the reverse. You just get the negative image, which to me was just, again, some graphic designer's failure at coming up with something cool. It's like, oh, we need something on the back. We'll just reverse the image. What was that all about?
It was very convenient and handy for me, though, because anytime that I wanted to, say, put on Kiss makeup, being in a work environment that I didn't work for a band, was that I had lots of suits. So all I had to do was the face makeup and get a wig, and I was set to go.
And something that's worked for a whole bunch of different tribute bands. I mean, it's hard to make those costumes. It's expensive to buy them. You could put on 4 suits, call yourself Dress to Kill, and you've got a Kiss tribute band. Easy peasy.
Yeah, exactly.
The story behind the suits was that none of them owned suits. They went out and borrowed a couple. I think they bought one at a thrift store. I believe some of them belong to Neil Bogart and Bill Aucoin. So they don't fit. So Gene's pants are incredibly small and tight. And I like Gene on the front cover. He's smiling. He's laughing. They talked about the Gene losing the demon. I think the demon developed over time. I think Gene was much more clownish in the early days. I mean, if you look at... Look, I don't like the tongue thing. I'm sorry. The tongue thing is just so overdone. Anything today, Kiss merchandise, that tongue, we've seen it a zillion times. I'm just so sick of seeing the Gene tongue. But I kind of did a quick scan through the album covers, and that tongue doesn't appear very often on album covers. When you think about it, it doesn't. It's not on Kiss. It's I think on Hotter Than Hell.
Yeah,
on Dress to Kill, he's laughing. On Alive, he has his tongue out. But you don't see it on Destroyer. You don't see it on Love Gun. And you don't see it on Kiss Alive. You don't see it on Creatures. That tongue kind of became, almost half of Gene's identity, probably much, much later and into the reunion. But in the early days, it was something that he did, but I don't think they pushed it too much in terms of in terms of an image. It didn't appear on the album covers that often.
If you look at the early concert footage, the black and white stuff in San Francisco, which is some of my favorite footage.
Yeah, the Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco.
I mean, that stuff is awesome. But you look at the caricatures. Ace is consistent. Peter Creech is consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Gene, like you said, he's singing like Nothing to Lose, and he's doing all these what I'm sure he thought was evil grins, and but he was bouncing a lot.
He's doing a lot of that stuff. He really enjoying it. Yeah.
Right. And Paul almost comes across as trying to come out of a shell, like he's not even quite there yet, right? He's certainly not the way he is now. He was barely, I would have said to you, at that point, he would have been one of the shyer members of the band.
Oh, very fresh and very new. But certainly doing well as a singer and as a guitarist and as a frontman, he was certainly doing quite well. But I think, you could certainly see the change in Paul Stanley over the years.
Yeah, but that cover, like you said, if you I always marry the cover with the music because, and again,
the music is playful on that one, isn't it?
Very much so. It's all like you think of, and being a guitar player, it's all very, standard. What's in some ways very standard rock and roll, 3-chord, 4-chord stuff, but very bouncy, like Getaway and Room
Getaway, Room Service, very playful songs. And I think about the solo on Lover All I Can, which is just one of my favorite Ace solos. I've tried to play it. It's just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling that he actually came up with that, because it's these weird riffs that are just kind of, I don't know, I couldn't follow it. But I mean, I think it's brilliant when he came up with it. But to me, it's a very playful solo. And I find the album covers very playful, especially with that goofy look on Gene's face. He knows his pants are too tight, and he's just grinning his way through. I think Gene is much more likable when he's grinning than doing the demon or sticking out the tongue.
Well, that changed. I mean, as you go, and I think when you get to the next album, I think that's when that started to change more. But if you look at the music, think of those first three albums, three very different covers, three very different musical directions.
Mm-hmm.
Hotter Than Hell was a tough sound. It was a tough album. I hated the production.
Dark album.
But it's tough.
But you see, same producers as the first album, so I don't know why it sounds so different.
Recording, I don't know why, but but it's also the type of songs. You think of the songs that they recorded on that. Like, again, you got Kissin' Time on the first album. You got,
it's a bubblegum pop tune. Yeah.
The third album I found fairly light compared to Hotter Than Hell, and I was trying to imagine. Honestly, if I'd have heard those albums first, I probably wouldn't have been a Kiss fan.
No,
I wouldn't, because they would have seemed middle of the road from a power perspective at that time. Like, if people don't realize this, you go back and listen to, like, say, like Not Fragile by Bachman Turner Overdraft with Turner singing.
Yeah.
Friggin'
incredible stuff. C.F. Turner, amazing. Let It Ride. Right. Oh, amazing.
So, but I mean, the primitive balls, right?
In terms of hard rock, I think Led Zeppelin was certainly the yardstick by which any hard rock outfit could compare themselves. In the early 70s, I mean, they had proven themselves over and over again with that big, huge power rock sound. And I just wonder if maybe Hotter Than Hell might have been going for that kind of sound. But anyway, let's get back to album covers, which brings us to Alive and my theory. We've been building up to a theory now. We're on 33 minutes, and I've got a theory on Alive. Anyway, Alive, I think, is one of the best. It's not my favorite, but I'm going to say my second favorite album cover. And I thoroughly believe that what you're looking at now, the Alive cover, should have been the first Kiss album cover. Because if you look at Kiss, Hotter Than Hell, and Dressed to Kill, you don't see their costumes. You kind of see it on Dressed to Kill, but the photography is so bad, the lighting is so bad, we just don't get a sense of the costumes. On the back, Gene's wearing some kind of weird costume, which I don't think he's ever worn anywhere else, and Ace is wearing like a silver dress. It's incredibly bizarre. But when you look at Kiss Alive, You're looking at the makeup, the guitars. By the way, these guitars never appear on the first three albums either. There's no indication that these guys are a rock and roll outfit. We don't see drums, we don't see guitars. Now, when you look at Alive, you see the full costume, the full makeup, you see electric guitars, you see lots of smoke. Okay, they've been firing off smoke bombs, so there's lots of smoke in the background. You got that big lit up Kiss logo, which is such a huge part of the show. If anything, that album cover, more than any other Kiss album cover, shows who they are and what they do. When you look at the first Kiss album cover, what is there to indicate that they're a rock and roll band? They look like clowns. And I could see someone picking that up and thinking, is this a comedy act? Is it a children's record? What is it? What is this? But Kiss Alive, there's no confusion whatsoever. Like we talked about how Hotter Than Hell can be confusing. You look at the cover of Kiss Alive, there's no confusion. This is a rock and roll band. It's not Bob Dylan doing Blowin' in the Wind. It's not the Bee Gees doing, or the Beatles doing, cute British rock. This is balls to the wall, hard rock with lots of smoke bombs, lots of lights, lots of costume, lots of makeup. And I think it says more about the band than any other album cover. So to me, that should have been the first album cover. I know I'm long-winded here, but I really believe that if Kiss Alive album cover had been their first album cover, I think they would have sold a lot more records in the beginning.
And I would agree with you on this. Is that album cover? Now, I guess what you're saying about that album cover is that an album cover like that on the first album would have been not that album cover, but an album cover like that would have been the one that would have sold more records for them, because obviously they didn't have that makeup, didn't have that stuff. I think what I would say is it sealed the deal for me, but it didn't do it by itself. I remember going back I was still living in Massachusetts at the time. And I was in this class at the end of the day, where study room class, and there was this guy in the class, and I had heard Rock and Roll Night on the radio, the live version, and that was getting lots of airplay, and I kind of liked that song. I didn't know what they looked like, I didn't know anything about them, but I liked the song, I was into it. But there's a lot of stuff I liked at the same time, Bohemian Rhapsody, right? There were other songs that were out at the same time. There's this guy in the study room now. He would never study, and I didn't either, but he was a stoner. Right? He was one of these guys, you could tell all he did was smoke pot. And all he did all day, but he had this look, but all he did during the whole thing was draw pictures of Kiss. And I know who it was. He drew pictures of Peter Criss and that quintessential drumsticks.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm thinking, this guy what's wrong with this guy? I said, this is a crazy band. They look like cartoons, right? So fast forward about 6 months when we finally moved to Nova Scotia. Living there with my parents, hadn't gone to school yet in the summer, so I'm by myself. Hitchhiking in Yarmouth to go to the record store. I see this record album there, and I'm like, holy mackerel! What it does do is it tells you exactly what they stand for.
Mm-hmm.
It was dark, it was powerful.
Yeah.
They were cool, they were streetwise. You were going to get your face blown off, right? I probably looked at that album cover 4 or 5 times before I could get enough money to buy the double copy.
Yeah.
And once I got it, that was it. But I had to have what happened before. I had to have that recognition. I wouldn't have bought it just on the cover. I wouldn't buy it just based on the cover. I had to have known, you know what? I like rock and roll. It's a double album, right?
Yeah.
Teenager buying double
album. It's going to cost a little bit more. $11, $12.
I probably wouldn't have bought just the kick.
No.
You know
no.
What I mean?
See, that's my theory on those first 3 albums. Who's going to buy this when all you're seeing are the faces, or those characters in suits, or what looks like costumes, but the photography is just so bad it's hard to tell what they are? No one's going to buy that. But like Kiss Alive, you look at that and you'd say, I would buy this, even if you didn't know the music that well. And my theory goes like Kiss Alive 2. I saw that in the record store. Someone had peeled off all of the cellophane so it was open. The front cover didn't get me too much, but the gatefold, that if you know the gatefold of Kiss Alive 2, the stage is just on fire. It's like, it's for that shot, it's probably staged, excuse the pun, but they probably fired off as much pyro and as much propane as they had. The whole place is just yellow with flame. And the guys on the risers and Peter Criss, you can't even see Peter Criss, but you certainly see his drum platform. And I thought, oh God, I've got to have this. I didn't care if I didn't like the music. I didn't care. I didn't care.
I
All I
got
knew,
I,
all I
I've
knew was
got
that
to have you. I've got to
that's
have
right.
you.
All I knew was that Kiss was really cool, and it was really cool amongst a lot of the guys that I went to school with. And I had been collecting pictures, and I thought and there was a booklet inside too, and I was quite happy to just put this thing on my dresser and let it kind of stand up with the gatefold, and maybe even take the booklet apart and put the posters on the wall. I was quite happy with that, even if I didn't like the music, because I hadn't heard a whole lot, but I heard Beth. And I hadn't heard a whole lot more. A couple of little clips on TV, but I didn't really know if I liked the music or not. When I got double platinum and started playing it, I thought, "Geez, this is good stuff." For me at 12 years old, it was much more exciting than a lot of the stuff I'd had on my KTEL records. For the first time, I
It's
was
funny.
hearing some really exciting rock and roll.
It's funny though because when you think about what you just said about all these different album covers, is that unless that album happened to be torn over, you never saw the
No,
inside.
I wouldn't have seen it. And the outside of Kiss Alive 2 is you get to see their faces pretty good. Jane looks horrific and gross and disgusting. That would have turned me off. But the inside gatefold told me I had to have that album. And I bugged my mom, and when she went back to get it, what I got was double platinum. Anyway.
It was. I would say that Alive, probably the image in Alive,
Hmm.
because it's not just about because I saw that '77. I saw Kiss in
You
1977
saw
with
them in
Cheap Trick,
'77. That's right.
right? With and that basically that gatefold you're talking about, that was
Yeah.
what they had.
Oh yeah,
The,
you
the
saw the
same,
Love Gun stage. Yeah,
yeah, the same
cool.
risers, all that stuff. And that was Kiss Alive itself, the rig, that image, that's what I bought.
Yeah.
Is that tough band?
Hmm.
They honestly, and I hate to say this, but they never really lived up to that image again quite. Kiss Alive 2 was close. It
Hmm.
was it was still pretty awesome, but it still wasn't as tough as Kiss Alive
Yeah.
in terms of that projection of who they were and what they stood for
Hmm.
and what the music was going to do to you and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And became anyway. But you're right. Kiss Alive 2. I hated that cover. The front
Well,
cover
again,
of
you know
Kiss
what?
Alive
I would look at Kiss
2.
Alive too, and we'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. But I don't like it's almost like a graphic designer's failure. It's like there's no more thought put into it at all. In fact, if you look
But
at the cover, I'm getting out of sequence here. But if you look at the cover, the
yeah,
front cover of Kiss Alive 2, the Kiss logo is bigger than the four faces. And I
yeah.
think the word alive is still bigger than the four faces. Now in the back, it's a little more redeeming. You actually get the whole square is divided into four equal quadrants, and you get the faces much bigger on the back. But the
But
front, it's I don't know. I think they should have had. I think the gatefold, what's on the inside, should have been on the front. But again, it's too wide. It wouldn't fit on the front. That's why it's on the gatefold. I think they would have sold more records if it was on the front.
I don't think they need. I think they didn't feel like they needed it, obviously, because it was always like an afterthought. Because obviously at that point they'd already had Beth out, they already had that
Yeah,
song
they
out.
were already
Um,
highly successful. Yeah,
yeah, highly successful.
they knew Kiss Alive 2 was going to sell, whereas Kiss Alive was a risk, and just a
Kiss
difference of
Alive,
2 years. Difference of
Kiss
2 years.
Alive is in hindsight. Is only hindsight. No one could have predicted that it would have done what it did.
No, they didn't know. They had no idea. You know, you watch any of the guys talking about Paul Stanley, his eyes will just pop right up and it's like, we sold 50,000, then we sold 100,000. It went platinum, it went gold, it went platinum, it went double platinum. These guys were completely blown away, and they didn't expect that at all. But it was the biggest risk. I mean, Casablanca was there was either sink or swim, and they put their last dollars into Kiss Alive, just hoping for a payoff, and they were successful, but they were pretty much broke. That was it. That was the final straw. Kiss Alive was either going to make it or break it, and yeah, so that's what put them on the map. Destroyer.
Yeah, that album. It's funny. I moved to Nova Scotia. I got Kiss Alive in the summertime, and then I got Destroyer in the fall when I finally went to school.
Hmm.
And again, a completely different band, a completely different band showed up,
Yeah.
right on the cover
Hmm.
as well as in the music.
Well, for the first
I
time,
happen to think Destroyer.
go ahead.
I think that I was gonna say that I think for the first time, other than Alive, Destroyer, the cover actually captures what's inside in terms of the feel, the epicness. I
Yeah.
always say the Destroyer to me, it sounds like it was recorded in the side of a mountain in a cave.
Well, you've got
With
space. I mean, if you look at the album cover, you've got all that space, right?
Yeah.
There's something exploding or destroyed or burned out behind them, and they're up on top of this mountain. So you get this incredible sense of a big wide open space, and you
Mm.
certainly hear that. Yeah, the cover does match the sonic
It's
quality and the acoustics of the music.
it's the only cartoon album cover that I really like.
Yeah. Well, it's Ken Kelly, and certainly one of the most iconic. Not my favorite. I'm coming up to my favorite quite shortly, also by Ken Kelly. But it is, and I've given it away. But it
Not to
is
me.
probably the most iconic. I mean, right behind me, you can see this is my poster from the reunion tour, and they're using the Destroyer, not the whole album, but they're using those guys. That pose has been used so much. It appears on the Kiss radio. It appears on T-shirts. It is probably one of the most iconic and recognizable Kiss album covers. And what I like about it is that Marvel Comics look. It certainly
Mm.
it shows again the costumes. The costumes had changed since Kiss Alive, and that is not the original cover. I'm going to insert the original, and this is actually has been worked up a little bit. This is not the original, but it kind of looked like this. Gene didn't like it because it was the Alive costumes, and they had gone into some
Yeah.
different costume, refining it, adding more silver on Ace, making it bigger and better. So Ken Kelly had something done up, and then he had to go back and pretty much take the exact same pose and just change the costumes. But I believe both paintings exist somewhere.
I've
I don't
seen.
I don't
I
think he
think I've
just
seen
painted it
them.
over. I think he started again from scratch.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's not as effective for sure with that old
No,
the old
no,
costumes.
no. And when they re-released Destroyer a few years ago, sort of a remastered, repackaged, reglitterized version of it or something. They
Was
used that original Ken Kelly with the Alive costumes, but they certainly refined it. I think they just popped it into a computer and completely redid it
Yeah,
over.
I don't have too much to say about the album cover. I found it interesting that
Hmm.
they put the lyric, only one song lyric on the inside, which was Detroit Rock City.
That's right. When you popped it open, and we never mentioned all the goodies and freebies, but I think the most exciting thing about Kiss Alive was when that booklet fell out.
Oh
And
man, that was
those
awesome.
big, huge pictures, because we didn't have internet in 1978. We couldn't just look at Paul Stanley anytime we wanted to. And these big, huge pictures, it was cool. But yeah, Destroyer did have an insert. It came with a Kiss Army sticker, which ended up on the headboard of my bed, and it had the lyrics to Detroit Rock City. And I think that was the first time we ever saw lyrics inside a
Yeah, yeah,
package. We
yeah,
don't
I
get
think
that
so.
very often in a Kiss record, do we?
No, well, they don't really focus on that so much.
No.
I let my backbone slide, and I love them and I leave them, and
Yeah.
you
So
know, you, you
rock and roll over.
yeah.
I don't.
Well,
I'm
the
I'm
only
I'm bothered by the people that regard rock and roll over as their favorite Kiss record. I mean, I'm
eh,
leading up to my favorite in a minute, and my second favorite is Kiss Alive. When people talk about rock and roll over as their favorite, I'm just wondering what it is they see there. I don't like it.
I don't, I don't think that way anymore, Jeff, because I know, like as I said it before, I'll say it 1,000 times. It's gonna be on my tombstone. It depends on how you were first, brought to the band.
Yeah.
If you were first brought to the band with that album, it's almost always going to be your favorite album, I think. And you know what? It was again. I told you before, we talked about this one time before. They kept changing directions. This album here was like again completely different. I was expecting Destroyer, not Destroyer 2, but that kind of epic, huge Bob Ezrin kind of sound.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't get that. We got raw. We got completely different sound.
Because they brought Eddie
Um,
Kramer back in. They were trying to make Kiss Alive.
yeah.
But it doesn't sound like Kiss Alive. But they actually
No.
recorded bits of it in a stadium. They went to a big open stadium, set up
I
amplifiers, and set up microphones down in the stairwells and places. That's what I've heard.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I mean, yeah, I can see why people, any given album might be their favorite. I guess the album art is the one that I was like, okay, now this is just, I don't get this. This is now, it doesn't even, it's not tough. It's
no,
just cartoony.
it's cartoonish. It doesn't.
You know,
I don't like Ace Frehley on this because he's got this domed head, almost like a space
yeah,
helmet. I do like the
yeah,
Peter Criss, and Peter Criss, I believe, does like that image. I mean, he has a tattoo taken from Rock and Roll Over on one of his arms.
You don't.
I do like the Peter Criss on that, but the Gene just looks kind of dumb, and his tongue all coming out and winding around like a snake. It's I don't know.
Yeah,
It doesn't do
I've
anything
never,
for me.
I've never really spent a lot of time looking at that cover, honestly, because I don't like to admit it, but when I was 17, 18 years old, part of the image of this was what I was trying to portray to the people around me too.
Hmm.
At that time, this is who, this is my band, and there's only so many Kiss fans out there, and there wasn't a lot,
Yeah.
and there wasn't a lot of kids with long hair even when I was, at that stage. But so this cover is certainly the Kiss Alive was a cover I could stand behind.
Yes.
But this cover here was like, I mean, it didn't. Don't get me wrong, it didn't make me go into a closet or anything like that. But it just was okay. But I like the music. I used to listen to the
And you're
music a lot.
talking about it. It has the context comes from your first exposure to it, and Rock and Roll Over was one of my first Kiss posters because it was in a
Mm-hmm.
magazine. My sister had these Tiger Beat magazines or something, and the back page was a full page ad for Rock and Roll Over, and it took up pretty much the whole page, so I could clip that out. I don't think there was anything else on the page other than just says like Kiss's new record or something like that. But almost the entire page is Rock and Roll Over, so that got clipped out and that went on my wall, and I thought, ooh, cool, a Kiss poster. I know it's small, it wasn't much, but to me, the Rock and Roll Over cover, that's what reminds me of, is one of my first Kiss posters that I put on my wall, and some other little things that I clipped out of magazines. But I still don't like it because to me it looks like, again, a graphic designer's failed project or failed final exam. The
I
whole
just,
center of it, the whole center wheel looks like a saw blade. What's with
I just,
that?
yeah,
You
I just
know?
don't. I don't know. I mean, I just didn't. Again, it's just sort of. It didn't. Conceptually, I wasn't really sure what they were going as a band, what they were trying to accomplish.
Yeah,
You could see where Destroyer was going for sure.
yeah.
You could see where Live, what they want to portray there. This one was again just as confusing as a cover as Dressed to Kill for me, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. You look at that and think, "What is this?" The same way you look at Dressed to Kill and Hotter Than Hell, and it just confuses you. I
I mean,
think
I
these
would.
guys needed to show costumes, which leads us up to my absolute favorite album cover, which is Love Gun. Now I've got issues with Love Gun. I've got issues with it, but I do absolutely love
I'm
those.
Homo Schumann.
No, I don't have issues with the music. I like, well, I've got issues with the sound quality in some of the songs, but we're not talking about music. We're talking about the album
No.
cover.
Yeah.
Love Gun. Okay, I mean, yes, Kiss is all about sex and drug. No, no drugs. Sex and rock and roll and more sex. And I mean, they could have just come out and called it, Kiss's new album, Paul's Penis. I mean, Love Gun. Come on. I mean, I'm almost ashamed to say that one of my favorite album covers has a title called Love Gun. It's so sexist. It's so imbecile, And then
maybe
when
maybe
you what's that?
maybe you're being too literal. I think there was a lot more. There was a lot more behind that. There's more. I don't think I. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Of course, that was what he said.
Well, I've tried to see some other meanings of love gun. You pulled the trigger off my love gun meaning. You've
My
excited
heart.
me.
My
Yeah,
love gun. My
you've
heart.
pulled the strings of my heart, and that's my love gun.
Yeah.
Or his gun is shooting out rays of love, like Cupid's arrow or something. I don't know. The other issue I have with the album is the women who are lying at Kiss's feet at the bottom of the album cover. It's very demeaning to women. It's very
Okay.
sexist.
Stop. 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 Stop.
No,
Okay.
no, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not a big feminist, but
No. No. Yeah. No. No. Okay. Stop. Okay. Okay. When did you buy that out? How old were you?
oh, I was 14. Yes,
Okay.
it
Now. Now.
excited me
Now
when I
tell
was
me.
14.
So at 14 years old, you said, "Oh my God, look at how they're demeaning women."
No, I didn't. However, I had a T-shirt. I was in the States, and we went to a place where they printed stencils right on T-shirts, and I had a choice between several, and I chose the Love Gun. So I come back to Newfoundland, and I'm in school, and I wear this T-shirt almost every other day. No, I wore it every day. And several people said to me, look at the women on that. They're half naked. You're wearing a T-shirt with half naked women on it.
Who
And
said that?
well, just some people that I went to school with. I think it was some guys who said it. I don't remember. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, you look at it today and you're thinking that is, it is sexist. It is.
Smell the glove. Smell the glove.
Exactly. Kmart will boycott it only because of the cover. Um, So that's the only issue I have with it is the sexual reference to Love Gun and the women down in the front. Now, mind you,
I,
this is Ken Kelly. It's an amazing piece of art. It's quite different from Destroyer, and I'm going to insert a few examples of a sci-fi artist named Frank Frazetta, who actually did some Molly Hatchet covers. And Vampirella, he was very hot in the 70s, doing a lot of magazine and sci-fi covers. And the approach that Ken Kelly is going for is very influenced by Frank Frazetta. You can see the similarity right off. So I think that it's a better cover than Destroyer, because Destroyer has sort of a Marvel look to it, and I think Love Gun has a much more sci-fi, a more refined kind of look. You can see the costumes better. You can see the muscles better. I like it. If I were to design it better, I would take off the title Love Gun. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it Kiss's next album. And I'd probably remove the women laying at their feet, and I'd just make the band a little bit bigger. And I've inserted a picture that I photoshopped that would show how the album would look if you made the band bigger, removed Love Gun, and removed the women from the front. Is it the same album cover? Is it still my favorite? It's hard to say because now it looks different. But I don't think they could get away with that today, is what I'm saying.
it's a fine line between being sexy and being sexist.
Yeah, what's wrong with being sexy?
What's wrong with being sexy? Sexist. Sexist.
You know.
Oh, I see. If Gina and Paul were down on all fours, then and the girls were standing up, it would have been okay, right?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I think that it's the whole fantasy thing, right? And I think that I agree. Would I do that today at 52 years old? No. But as me, I was older than you, but 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
I kind of bought into the whole concept. Geez, I wish I had and you know what? Girls and kiss makeup.
Yeah.
Pretty damn hot. It's pretty damn hot.
They've done that.
Yeah.
They've done photo shoots with girls in kiss makeup, and I like it.
I got a Facebook page that we've got a Facebook page that we've got liked, whether you know it or not. It's called that we've liked. It's called Hot Girls in Kiss Makeup or
excellent.
Yeah.
I've done my wife up in kiss makeup. She was my girlfriend at the time, but I've done her up in kiss makeup.
I've seen those.
Did a photo shoot and it looked really good. And unfortunately, it wasn't digital at the time. We were using film, so it was a little bit limiting.
You know what the worst? I tell you what that album did for me though was the worst part of that album for me was do you remember what came in with the album?
Yeah, it came with a pop gun.
Yeah.
With a love gun.
A little cardboard.
I have it. Gun. I have it here. No, I'm not going to go looking for it, but I have it.
I took that out, and I said, and I was only 18 years old. I said, you have got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
To give me this? And that's it. That was the concert I went to see with Love Gun, right?
Yeah.
In 77.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the concert, and and honestly, I swear, 1977, I was 17 and a half years old, and I saw all these little kids at the concert, and I already knew it was done.
Yeah.
The Kiss Alive band?
Yeah.
The Kiss Alive band?
Well, that's what Paul said after they released the Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. It became family entertainment, so they'd be doing the Dynasty tour, and families were showing up. Little kids, 7 years old, in Kiss makeup, and he said we've now become a family act.
Yeah.
That's not Kiss of 1974.
Kiss of 2013.
Oh yeah, it's no different today. We're coming up on 58 minutes, so we're going to try and keep this. We're not under broadcast standards by any means, but we like to keep it to about an hour. So we mentioned Kiss Alive too, and we've kind of jumped the gun on that. But the next albums to come out were the solo albums, and I got to admit the artwork by his name is Eraldo Carugati. I'm assuming maybe of Italian or Spanish origin, and just amazing work. I don't think he did any work with Kiss after that, but when you look at those 4 solo album covers, I mean, that is some of my favorite Kiss artwork. I mean, the detail, not just in the hair. I mean, the hair is amazing, but the way that he worked with light and shadow and color and the white faces. I looked at it several times and wondered if it was a photograph or a painting. To me, they're quite impressive, and they look so good together. The 4 of them look so good together, which is nice because the albums don't work together as a set. Musically, they don't work together.
No,
they're completely diverse, and I like each one for different reasons.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to talk with the covers, the covers, I just remember when they came out, and I bought Paul's and Ace's first because everybody has their favorites, right?
Yeah.
I'm a guitar player, so I bought the Guitar Players albums
I bought
first.
Ace, then Gene, I believe.
Yeah,
Paul's. I never bought Peter's.
I didn't hear Peters in full until this year.
Yeah,
I
I've
and
heard Peter's, and
anyway,
I know
but
I don't
the
have it
art,
on. I know I bought them all since. I bought everything on CD. My entire
the
Kiss
art,
collection has been bought on CD, but I've never bought Peter's because I never listened to it, and I'm just not familiar with it. So I know if I bought it, I probably wouldn't enjoy listening to it.
it's interesting to see, how the color schemes that were chosen are blue for Ace, red for Gene, lavender, purple for Paul, and
Yeah.
green. And you think of those color associations,
Yes.
in many different forms, like through business or and
Well, they're
for our
primary
person.
colors, and I didn't mention that before, but in a lot of the albums, especially Destroyer, you get some really, really heavy primary colors, and the psychology behind it, because I do teach art, the psychology behind primary colors is that they grab your attention very quickly. And so they've kind of done away with yellow, but they've thrown green into it, which some people consider a primary color. So yeah, those colors certainly grab your attention quickly, and they work
But
really well together.
but the other angle to that, Jeff, is um, in business, for instance, and the color schemes, like again the personality. I don't know if it's so much the personality profiles, but red are directive people.
Yeah,
Blues are analytic, greens
yeah.
are social. Trying to make things work. Purple, we don't have a purple; they have yellow, right?
Hmm.
But it's funny how you look at the band, the color scheme actually fits the personalities of the band as well in terms of
It
kind
does
of
because
woven.
red works for Gene. He's the leader. He's the shark. He's the out for blood. And
But we know
he
the
likes
truth
this.
now.
What's that?
So we know the truth now, though.
Yeah, he likes to portray himself as evil incarnate, as he said on the Mike Douglas show. I think green works for Peter because as a cat, they certainly, in a lot of their later photo shoots, they would incorporate that. They'd use more jungle type theme and ferns and
Mm.
large plants and lots of greenery, and that kind of worked for Peter. They brought those colors much further into the Dynasty costumes because now Peter had lots of green fur around his boots, and he had these huge, almost like shrunken heads, like voodoo heads or something, on his shoulders with huge green hair. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
And Ace had a lot of blue incorporated into his costume and in his cape. Paul was wearing something more like a pirate shirt with very puffy sleeves, and it had a lot of
Oh,
purple underneath it. And I'm sure Gene had red in his costume somewhere, but Gene's Dynasty costume to me looked like tinfoil. It was just all
I,
this molten metal, and to me it looked like it was made of tinfoil. I didn't like it at all. I thought
I didn't like.
Ace's costume was cool, but the rest weren't.
I gotta say that just, but from an album covers, whether they worked or not, they definitely worked for me. It was the way they did it. It was smart. It kept the brand, the Kiss theme throughout. They were distinct. They were easy to see in the marketplace. They
Yeah.
looked great, and they did reflect the artist. I think quite well. I
Mm-hmm.
hated those. I hated that puffy shirt that Paul had.
Oh, terrible. Move on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the famous,
yeah.
the famous. I can't remember the
That's
words.
the footage from, I believe, Largo, and he forgets the words to move on. So he just
Then he
kind of
starts
freezes at
dancing.
the mic and he just starts dancing.
I mean,
um, but the solo albums, can you remember walking into a record store and seeing the four of them displayed on the wall? The four of them side by
no,
side. No, I can remember that. I can remember, but I think by that time we had a Sam the Record Man, and I can remember going in and the four of them were displayed. However
it,
they set up on the wall, but together, and it kind of looked like this poster behind me. And I remember looking at that and thinking, if I just had the money to buy all four, I don't have enough money to buy one, but if I did, which one would I buy?
the
And
bottom line is,
actually, it was a buddy of mine. He had the Ace Frehley one. He just didn't want it anymore, so I gave him $3 for it, and I was just so happy to bring home the Ace Frehley album, for $3.
the bottom line is that the album covers used to, obviously, and everybody knows this, but they used to be way more important. I mean, well, I used to love. I would just go into a record store flip through album covers, and that would literally draw me and at least make me want to take a look. These
Well,
covers showed up.
I think that's part of the argument here tonight is that I think the album cover is as much a part of the art as the music itself. Because they were big. It was a 12-inch by 12-inch platform that you had to work with. With today's CDs, they're much smaller. The cassette, don't even get me started on the cassette. What a waste of space and energy that was. But now today it's all digital downloads. I mean, the cover doesn't mean anything anymore. Not like it did in the 70s. And especially if you open that up and there was a gatefold or a booklet that came out or a poster, that was just such bonus because we didn't have the internet and we didn't have these visuals that we wanted. And it wasn't just Kiss, it was any band, whether it was Cheap Trick and a booklet fell out or Boston, any of these bands that we listened to in the 70s. We love it when there's extra stuff in the package, and we love it when the pictures are big and colorful on the album cover. It's part of the art. The art was as important as the music.
And now you who buys a CD not already knowing what the music sounds like? I mean, these days you already know what you're buying. I mean, you've either ripped it off from somebody else or you bought a tune, or so now it's a completely different game now.
It is.
Than it was then, right?
Yeah, we're gonna wrap this up in a couple of minutes, but I think we're gonna end on Dynasty. Because I think we're heading almost out of the makeup era. But if you look at Dynasty, the first image I had of this, I mean, I was so excited that Kiss had a new album. And, I didn't even save up. I just said, Dad, give me $10. The new Kiss album is out, and I'm having it today. You might as well give me the money now. And I went to the record store the day it was there, and I bought it and brought it home. But to me, it just looks like they don't want to be there. They just look so unhappy. Peter looks unhappy. Paul looks bored. Ace looks bored. Gene is putting on his face, of course. He's always going to be Gene. But poor Peter just looks so sad and depressed, like he doesn't want to be there. Could these guys not smile for the photo? And how much creativity went into that anyway? You got the four guys to pose as close as they can get their heads together. For what? I mean, why couldn't you photograph them in the Dynasty costumes, which are really cool? The new costumes. Maybe those costumes weren't developed before the photo shoot.
Well, take a look behind you. Take a look at the solo records. It's a picture of the solo records, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's recreating those solo records, but it's no longer four individual things. It's four of them stuck together. And it almost looks as if Peter's saying, do I really have to be here? I didn't record on this album. It's all Anton Fig. I sang a song. I'm not even in the band anymore. Why the frig am I here? That's what it looks like to me. But I didn't know it at the time.
For me, it was more like, I'm trying to think, okay, so if we think about it, this is the first picture, an actual photo since what? Since Alive?
No, yes, because it's all been artwork. Since Kiss Alive 2, it's all been artwork.
Right.
And since Kiss Alive, it's all been artwork. So you're finally getting a photograph. And I'll tell you what the Dynasty album was really good for was applying your makeup.
Yeah.
It was great for that. I know every time I do makeup, I go looking for my Dynasty album. Because it's big. I can see Gene's makeup incredibly well. Ace's makeup. Depends what I'm doing.
I think I was really disappointed that each album didn't come with its own cape.
With its own cape?
I hate those capes. I despise those capes.
Oh, I have to backtrack a little bit. The solo albums. Remember the posters in the solo albums?
No.
You don't remember those? Oh, okay. Each solo album came with a poster, and it was really, really bad art. I mean, it looked like a high school, no, not a high school, let's say a junior high, and I teach, I don't mean to put down junior high, because I've taught junior high, and they're some great artists. But it really looks as if they hired the cheapest artists they could afford. They're terrible. They're bad. It's bad art. It's the worst art I've ever seen. But the thing about those posters is that the four of them together create a mural. And again, this was Kiss's attempt at saying you can't just buy one, you can't just buy two, you've got to buy all four, because the posters make a mural together. You don't remember seeing those?
No.
Oh, okay. Anyway, but that's one of the little bonuses that came in the solo albums. And
I was a funny kid, right? I mean, you see, I got my Facebook profile now. I got an old Love Gun T-shirt that I used to have on it.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I used to get people come up to me all the time, like girls, and saying that I was demeaning women, and and teachers and but no, all jokes aside, that stuff was really a lesser thing for me. It was
Mm-hmm.
really the music, and I think the bigger impact for me when it came to Dynasty was the subtle shift in direction that happened there. It really took the final turn.
Yeah.
The album cover to me, like basically what it said to me was, I just don't see a lot of effort going into it. I
No.
was really kind of surprised, and it kind of got reflected throughout the piece. I mean, Dynasty's okay,
Yeah.
and the album cover just didn't. I mean, at that point, I wasn't buying Kiss based on their artwork.
No, the front cover was a little bit. It was exciting because it was for the first time the pictures were so big and so clear. You could really see their faces. Why Peter looked so annoyed, well, we know now, but I didn't understand it then. If you look at the back of Dynasty, there's nothing, just a track list. We don't get any artwork at all.
Yeah.
But bonus, you open up the album and out comes this beautiful poster. And when you look at that poster, it looks like Ace is smiling. It looks like Peter is smiling. Paul is kind of in the shadows looking up at something, and Gene is just sort of doing his typical pose. He's, pouting his mouth and looking off to the side, trying to look evil. But to me, that's a much better group photo. Again, the problem is it doesn't work as a square. It works really well as a rectangle. So this was from the photos session, obviously, and they threw it in as a poster. To me, it's one of my favorite Kiss posters. It really shows them well. It's good, big, color, clear photography. You can see the makeup. You can see them incredibly well. I think it would have made a better front album cover, but again, it doesn't fit the square. So that's why it didn't make it on the album cover.
They probably felt with that album cover that they didn't need to do much because they had such a great final track.
Yeah. Yeah. They could do anything and it was going to sell.
They just knew
it.
The final track was?
Oh, you're talking about the final track of the record.
Yeah.
Oh, the final song on Dynasty is Save Your Love. I don't know. Is it?
Save it. Save it.
Oh, am I right?
Good.
That was just a guess.
We used to sing that as a joke.
Yeah, we used to make fun of that one. It was fun to sing it. Yeah.
Save it.
We used to do almost like a Frank Sinatra kind of thing, right? Save your love, I don't want it. We had a good blast. We'd have a few beers and sing Save Your Love.
That's a good one. It reminds me of the Thong song.
The what song?
The Thong song.
Thong song?
Yeah, you ever heard of the Thong song?
Should I know this?
No, probably. I'm glad you don't, actually.
No.
Save it for another podcast. It's
okay.
Not Kiss.
Yeah.
It's not Kiss.
No. Well, we've had fun tonight.
Yes.
This is our first podcast, and I had a lot of fun. Now, coming up in the future, what we plan to do, because Jeff and I are both guitar players, we plan to look at the music, maybe some of the earlier music, a little more in depth, and maybe try to pull apart some things and use our guitars to demonstrate how some of the Kiss music was pieced together and what we liked about certain riffs and things like that. So we're gonna get a little more deep into the music from a guitar player's point of view.
What we're really hoping to do too is we don't live all that far apart. We're 3.5 hours away.
Yeah, we could get together and do that one.
Yeah, and do some actual filming where we can play some guitar together. So if you get some audience participation going in advance in terms of some songs you want us to play just for the hell of it. Just we won't do like whole songs and those kind of things, but really to get into the music a little bit, not technical, just very much from a fan's perspective. We'll get to that later, but hopefully everybody has enjoyed the podcast.
Oh, I hope so. Well, I'm glad we got through our first podcast. And we got through it. It wasn't as technically perfect as we had hoped, but I think it's cool. So if you like it, like our page, join us, and drop a line. Let us know what you think of certain album covers, and let us know what you think of us, and if you think we're total bubbleheads or doughheads, or we really know our Kiss stuff, because we think we do.
I don't. But
who knows? Okay, Jeff, who's the bigger Kiss fan, me or you?
I'll say it this way. There's two different types of Kiss fans in the world. There's Kiss freaks and there's Kiss fans. You're a Kiss freak.
What's the difference?
The difference? Well, then there's the Kiss geek, right?
Yeah.
Kiss
Kiss geek knows too much.
Well, Kiss Geeks. There's people that buy the merchandise. This is not a criticism, but there's people I hang around with that get me back into this. They love the merchandise. They love the music. They love everything about the band.
Yeah.
I would say I'm just a Kiss fan because I've only seen them once in my life. Yes, and here comes Ace into my screen, totally throwing me off.
Merchandise? What merchandise? I don't
Yeah,
like the merchandise.
I have zero merchandise.
Zero? Absolutely nothing?
Nothing really. I mean, I might have a T-shirt someone got me, but I have zero merchandise. All I really do, the way I show my love for the band is I know virtually every Kiss song that exists on guitar, and I played it and jam with it. That's
You
the way
can.
I
I think you
like
can play
it.
almost every song. You're up on me because I certainly couldn't play any Kiss song at the drop of a hat. I have some that I can play well, many that I know, but no, I don't know them all.
Well, I have to. Everybody, it's just the way it is. It's the way I do things. Once I learn it, I learn it. So
Yeah,
there's a lot. Blair and I were figuring it out the other day. We've done over together. We play over 90 tunes at the Stays Kiss tunes.
yeah, that's cool. That's impressive.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is, right?
So anyway, we're gonna sign off for this podcast. This was a blast. I enjoyed talking
Yeah.
about Kiss and album covers, and
Yeah.
always nice talking to you, Jeff. And
You too, Jeff.
yeah, so it's Jeff and Jeff signing off for Watching You.